Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Call Box. It's where you go for police info. And I'm your host, Lieutenant Vince Lewis, coming to you once again from beautiful downtown Phoenix Police Headquarters with my co-host, PIO Sgt. Lorraine Fernandez. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, boss, for having me.
So it's February.
It is
Valentine's.
days away, so make sure you have your cards and presents ready.
We're going to talk about relationships.
Yeah.
Namely, we're going to talk about the relationship, the ever important, always changing and refreshing relationship with the police department and the community. Yes. And for this reason, we've brought back our subject matter expert on the community, Detective Trey Sueing. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So you're with the Community Engagement Bureau as
Yes.
part of the Community Response Squad.
Yeah, yes, the Community Response Squad.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What's your main, to refresh our memory, what's your main mission?
Okay, yeah, so we have multiple roles dealing with the community. One of them being we're there to create an environment where you could exercise your First Amendment right. We're not there to prevent it in any way, shape, or form. It's more so just to, create that environment to where you can do it safely, because once you feel strongly about something, there's always a counter protest or a counter, feeling or opinion about that. So we just more so to mediate the peace in that aspect. So we monitor marches, rallies, protest, anything in terms of, political within the political realm will be there. But we also foster relationships, within the community due to our police chief advisory board. So there's 13 other boards serving many different, diverse communities to where we, establish relationships and, like you said, bridge that gap between the police and the community.
All right. So before we get too far away from the topic, let's talk protests. Let's talk about demonstrations. Let's say I feel strongly about something. I go and I get my poster board, I get my paints, I write my sign, and I'm going to head downtown. What do I need to know before I get there, and what should I be looking out for?
I think it's just, best to be aware of, the laws in terms of, how to go about, peaceful protest, whether you want to remain on the sidewalk, you don't want to impede in terms of anyone's property line, you want to stay out of traffic, you don't want to obstruct traffic or anything of that nature. If it's a large group or crowd, you want to get in contact with the cities to see what resources they could provide in terms of, maybe traffic control, maybe barricades and anything of that nature. There's usually a right-of-way meeting you can go about, and, Sergeant Keene is good at, organizing those and getting in contact with the community to ensure they have what they need.
Mm-hmm. Sarge, what do you want to know?
I think it's important, obviously, for the community to be aware that we're there to support them and we're not trying to impede anything as far as any sort of beliefs. So that's hugely beneficial for our community to have that resource. But one of the other things is not everything happens during, where these beautiful temperatures that we're having right now. How do you guys handle it when people are wanting to protest or march and express their beliefs when the temperature is in the 3 digits?
Right. So in terms of the temperature and heat, right?
Yes.
And so we just, we're mindful of, the circumstances. We may have a point of contact, a leader of the organization, get in contact with them and just to ensure, hey, it's hot out, make sure you're staying hydrated. We may have fire stage, in certain circumstances, if necessary. They usually have their own medics on site. If it's a large group, they'll have their own medics who provide water, food, and things of that nature in case an emergency.
Yeah, it seems like especially since, I guess in recent years, since 2020, let's just say, we've seen a rather stark increase in the amount of demonstrations, protests, and things like that we've seen. We're kind of getting really good at interacting with those folks. Some of the things that you guys might do on the front end is kind of reach out to those organizers. What's the conversation like before they, because it's not always us versus them, right? We're there as a resource for them to continue to do what they're going to do, right? So what's that conversation like?
Yeah, and even if they're not, supportive in terms of the department, it's very important that we still have that relationship and maintain those relationships. Even if they're, resistant upon providing us any information, we still have to make an attempt. So, the conversation is basically, hey, I'm Detective Trey Sueing. I'm with the Community Response Squad over on, with the Phoenix Police Department. We understand that you're having an event. We just want to make sure that everyone remains safe. Maybe what's the number of, occupants that you'll have? Are there any dignitaries? Are there any plans?
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, we're going to get more into that. We're going to talk more about the Community Relations Bureau and your Detective Trey Sueing when we come back for the break.
I'm a busy mom. I'm also a Phoenix police officer devoted to keeping our community safe.
I'm a Little League coach. And I'm a Phoenix police detective and a part of the team here too.
Find endless career options with one of America's best large employers.
Welcome back to the call box. We are still here with Detective Trey Sueing. So one of the other roles that you have is when we have critical incidents, you guys have a role in that. After the incident is done, you guys want to go out and meet with the community. Can you walk us through what that's like?
Absolutely. So initially, a narrative is generated to provide to the community in terms of it's basically a recap of the incident that may have happened relatively close to where they either reside or their place of business is. So that's provided to us as detectives. We're assigned to go out and do the outreach. Prior to going out, we'll contact our the resources, the resource van to get them to stage in the area, let them know we'll be out there, providing the community these resources. And you just want to go door by door within that vicinity and just see who's, inheriting any type of trauma from the incident. And if so, here's some resources. Just know that we're here. Here's a recap of what happened. And it's just showing you that we have that transparency and we're not trying to keep it away from the community. And we have those open doors in case it may be troubling.
Yeah. What's some of the reactions you get? I mean, first of all, knocking on a door in today's day and age is like, unless you've got food in your hands, I don't know what you're doing at my house, right?
Right.
So, but let alone being the police. So how does that interaction go?
That is a great question because they could feel strongly about a situation and be angry with us. So it's just mindful that, we kind of know residents have certain addresses, where to go, not to go, but still that's our job. And we understand that, the community isn't always going to understand why things happen the way that they do. So we're receptive to it. And we still have to make that attempt to provide them those resources. But also you have, the community is very grateful, especially churches that are like, hey, we were wondering what happened. We're glad. We're so grateful that, you came out and you briefed us on the situation. Therefore, we could continue to advise the community on the incident that occurred.
Yeah, we see it all the time over social too. Nextdoor, Facebook, Instagram. People want to know what the helicopter's doing over their house or why is there, 3 cops on this one traffic stop, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that transparency, it just goes right back to transparency, being able to provide the information that we can to the community members. And especially like if it's affecting a church or a school that's in the neighborhood and letting them know that it's safe for them to go back out to church or to send their kids, which is their most precious, person in their household back to school. So that's a huge responsibility for you guys.
Absolutely.
Probably feels good walking away from those conversations where you feel like you came to a place.
That's what I was just about to say. And that's one of the, better feelings that you get from the job is providing that clarity, especially, the community members who have that concern and just giving them that understanding of it.
Yeah. So sticking with the February theme, it is Black History Month. You are a part of the Chiefs Advisory Board for the African American Advisory Board. Absolutely. A liaison for that group, right? So catch us up. What's been going on? Because you guys just had the summit, right? For the Advisory Board Summit? Right.
We just had the summit. Prior to that was our Martin Luther King March and Festival, where we leave from Pilgrim Rest and we march into Margaret T. Hans Park. So that's an annual thing that's been going on for 40 years. And we plan to keep that alive and keep that going in the name of, Dr. Martin Luther King. And upcoming, I would say sometime in June, we have Juneteenth. But yeah, this month is Black History Month and it's been going well.
Mm-hmm. What's going on with the advisory group? What kind of things are you hearing? Or what did they tell you at the summit?
So with the summit, it's just, everything is going well in terms of the relationship between, the African American Advisory Board and the police department. I feel like it's strengthened over the years to where we have that understanding of one another and we're staying on top of topics within the community. Right now, gun violence is heavy in South Phoenix specifically, as well as Maryville. So, I have 2 members on my board that are, very active leaders in those communities, and they keep us up to date on, situations that we may need to have, intel on and kind of just find out ways to make the community safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge that we have that communication and especially that open communication where we can be open and honest with the community. And sometimes they don't want to hear from us directly, but being able to have those advisory boards where those leaders that are taking on these huge roles, being able to go back and filter that information back out to the community is such a huge resource for us. So we always have to think of different ways to provide that information, and I mean, praise to you guys for doing that.
Yeah, and they do well at advocating for us and making sure that the community gets that information. Absolutely.
What are some of the changes or improvements that you've seen between the department and those advisory groups? What are some of the successes or wins that we've celebrated now that we've gotten those relationships?
I think the main win is that we can have these conversations, whether they be comfortable or uncomfortable. Our chief is very transparent, and they have unlimited access to them. So when we have those, quarterly meetings, I think the big win from that is being able to have a conversation, come to an agreement, and us leaving on the same page. So there's no more offset. There's no more uneasiness, at the conclusion of these meetings. So I think the win is that we're actually being productive and we're not just sitting there and everyone's looking at each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And again, going back to those uncomfortable conversations, we have to have those in order to have that progress, whether the progress is having that communication go out to the community through different outlets. Right. Like, we have to be involved in those because we have a ton of the information and we want to give it to people. So that is just a huge resource for us.
Absolutely.
We got about 30 seconds or so left. I want to ask you personally, help me or just kind of introduce me to your story, in that, when we went through the training, we went through the academy, and they taught us how to assess threats and how to be police officers, how to protect ourselves and those people around us. And patrol definitely has its own culture and its own, way of doing things out there. But when you're in a plainclothes detective capacity, what's the biggest shift for you now dealing with the community? You're not in uniform per se. I mean, you're professionally dressed and everything like that. You're still armed with a badge and everything. But when did that shift take place for you?
I think it's just the shift comes from, that's where you really have to dial in your life experience and your ability to communicate with the community. Because now, like you said, you're in a more lax position. So just see yourself as a community member yourself and put yourself in their shoes and vice versa. So you could have these conversations and be productive.
Yeah. So the clothing, makes the officer, but the officer's still the officer, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Hey, I want to thank you, Detective Trey Sueing, for joining us on the show today. Thank you, Sergeant Fernandez, for co-hosting. I want to thank the crew for producing, and remind you, the listener, that you can catch the video versions of these shows on our YouTube channel, and help be a part of the solution. You too can solve crime in your community by sending tips to Silent Witness. Visit silentwitness.org and call 480-WITNESS. Visit us on all social media platforms. We are hiring. Go to joinphxpd.com. And until next time, be safe out there. Be a part of the solution in your community. Find out how to become a Phoenix police officer on the next The Call Box.